Much.
And now to the Wisconsin Supreme Court's decision to strike down a 176-year-old abortion ban. It wasn't, in fact, until 1973 when the U.S. Supreme Court's landmark Roe v. Wade decision came down, legalizing abortion, nullified it.
However, Wisconsin Republicans argue the overturning of Roe reinstated the abortion 1849 ban. Now, the decision from the Supreme Court in the state has made things more clear for those pregnant and medical professionals working with those who are pregnant. Reaction is pouring in from around the state. To hear what state leaders are saying about this decision, we turn it over to CBS 58's Montse Ricosa, who is in our studio with more. Montse.
Amanda and Mike, that's right. The Wisconsin Supreme Court 4-3 ruling means that the 1849 abortion ban had been repealed through other legislation passed since then in our state.
Today's ruling marks a major victory for reproductive freedom following the uncertainty and harm to women's health that have resulted from the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
After Roe was overturned in June of 2022, pregnant women and their doctors were unsure of what the rule of the land was.
For 15 months, women in Wisconsin had to experience something that for essentially 2 generations people hadn't had to go through, which was being denied the autonomy and the freedom to make their own reproductive health care decisions.
Attorney General Josh Kaul, alongside Governor Tony Evers, filed a lawsuit in 2022 stating the 1849 law was not the most recent abortion legislation in effect after Roe was overturned. A 1985 law permits abortions until 20 weeks. Wisconsin law also says women must undergo an ultrasound and wait at least 24 hours before getting an abortion. Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Dallett referenced that in Wednesday's ruling, as she wrote for the court's liberal majority. On the other side, though, State Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley of the conservative minority wrote that the opinion, quote, erases a law it does not like, making 4 lawyers sitting on the state's highest court more powerful than the people's representatives in the legislature.
It appears that once again the state Supreme Court liberals sort of went rogue and overturned legislative power.
That was echoed by State GOP Chair Brian Schimming, who says, quote, the issue should be resolved in the legislature and by voters. Attorney General Kaul agreed that the legislature needs to take action.
While this decision is an incredibly positive step for freedom, I also think it's critical that our legislature do what the Supreme Court suggested in Dobbs and take up this issue and hear from Wisconsinites about how we can better protect reproductive freedom for the long term in Wisconsin so that the next generation of Wisconsinites doesn't have to deal with old laws on the books that haven't been changed.
Governor Tony Evers applauded what he described as a win for women and families. We have additional reactions from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle on our website, cbs58.com. Back to you.
Montse, thank you. Both Democrats and Republicans are reacting to this historic decision.
Our Pavlina Asta is hearing from both sides of this divisive issue. Pavlina.
Yeah, Mike, Amanda, some see it as a step in the right direction, while others say it's a disappointment, and the Supreme Court wasn't clear which law repealed abortion. The executive director of Wisconsin Right to Life says the decision was not a surprise. She says back in November, the Supreme Court made it very clear what their final decision would be. The chair of Reproductive Justice Action Milwaukee says Roe v. Wade was the floor, and they plan to continue to push for more.
Perhaps they ran for the wrong office. They want to legislate from the bench instead of telling us whether or not our laws in Wisconsin are enforceable, whether or not they're constitutional or unconstitutional, but instead telling us how the law as they wish it to be written should be written.
We plan to expand abortion access in Wisconsin. We want to fight for getting rid of that 24-hour waiting period. We want to fight to get rid of that. The mandatory ultrasound. So we really have our work cut out in front of us, but we still want to take today to celebrate.
Unlike clinics in Madison and Milwaukee, clinics in Sheboygan will really be feeling the difference since they could only provide medication abortions, not surgical abortions. I did reach out to the district attorney, Joel Umansky, for comment, who declined. Back to you.